she's here.
What's that?
It's her. It's a little bit of her.
Stevie Nicks married her dead best friend's husband because she genuinely believed it might bring the woman back.
Ashes.
Oh my goodness.
But as important as that is that she's in my heart.
But why did a rock legend make decisions this unhinged? And how did she still become one of the most respected artists alive? Stick around because we're diving into 12 little known facts about Stevie Nicks' life, from the addictions that nearly killed her, to the relationships that tore Fleetwood Mac apart, to the secrets she kept for decades. Story 1: Recording rumors while everything collapsed. February 1976, Stevie Nicks walks into a recording studio with her ex-boyfriend. They're contractually obligated to make an album together. What happens next should have killed the band. Fleetwood Mac was flying high. Their 1975 album had gone multi-platinum. Stevie and Lindsay were the couple who'd clawed from poverty to stardom. Christine and John McVie were the married rhythm section. Mick Fleetwood's marriage seemed fine. Within 3 weeks, Stevie and Lindsay's relationship detonated. They had a legally binding contract. Now they had to write love songs about each other while actively despising each other, standing at opposite ends of the room. Christine and John McVie announced their divorce mid-session. As the rhythm section, they had to play together every day. They showed up, recorded their parts with frigid professionalism, then left separately. Mick discovered his wife was sleeping with his best friend. As band leader, he somehow had to hold 5 people together while his own world burned. Cocaine became the only thing keeping the sessions running, mountains of it, available 24/7. It's 3 in the morning. Stevie and Lindsay are recording Dreams and Go Your Own Way, songs they wrote to hurt each other. Both wired on cocaine, both heartbroken. Stevie sings, "Players only love you when they're playing," directly at Lindsay. He cranks his guitar to distortion on "Packing Up, Shacking Up is All You Want to Do." The engineer keeps rolling because the hatred sounds incredible. Rumors dropped in February 1977 and sold 40 million copies. It won Album of the Year. Every song dripped with real betrayal, real cocaine paranoia, real heartbreak. Audiences felt the authenticity because it wasn't performance, it was documented destruction. They destroyed each other and became immortal doing it. Story 2: the album that failed then made them superstars. New Year's Eve 1974. Stevie Nicks is scrubbing toilets for money. 12 hours later, she gets a phone call that changes everything. September 1973. Stevie and Lindsay released Buckingham Nicks, a duo album they'd sacrificed everything for. They were certain they'd finally made it. The album sold virtually nothing. Polydor dropped them within months. Suddenly, they were back to waiting tables, living in a cheap apartment with a mattress on the floor. Stevie took a job cleaning houses. Lindsay did construction and played guitar at weddings. By December 1974, their relationship was fracturing under poverty and failure. They kept playing tiny clubs to empty rooms, pretending they still had a shot. New Year's Eve 1974, Mick Fleetwood walks into Sound City Studios, the same studio where Buckingham Nicks had been recorded. An engineer left a copy of their failed album on the console. Mick had just lost his lead guitarist. The engineer played Buckingham Nicks to fill the silence. Mick heard something in Lindsay's guitar work that stopped him cold. He tracked down Lindsay's number and called on New Year's Day 1975. Lindsay thought it was a prank. When he realized Mick Fleetwood was serious, he had one condition: "I'll join, but only if Stevie comes too." Mick said yes. They joined Fleetwood Mac in January 1975. Within 12 months, their album went multi-platinum. By 1977, rumors made them the biggest band on earth. The album that destroyed their careers became their audition tape for superstardom. The audition tape was playing. They just didn't know anyone was listening. Story 3: Lindsay's firing. One had to go. August 1987. Mick Fleetwood gathers the band for a meeting. Someone is getting fired today. Fleetwood Mac had survived a decade of romantic carnage. By 1987, the Stevie Lindsay dynamic had become poison. They couldn't be in the same room. Rehearsals turned into shouting matches. The band was paralyzed. Mick called the meeting to discuss their next album. Within minutes, it was clear this wasn't about music. He had to choose. Lindsay, the musical genius who made everything work, or Stevie, the mystical frontwoman who sold tickets and albums. Lindsay had produced Rumors, created their sound. Stevie was the face on the posters, the voice on the radio. Mick did the cold math. The room went silent. Lindsay was out. Here's what most people don't know. Lindsay found out he was fired when he read about it in the newspaper. Mick never called him directly. The man who'd produced their biggest albums, who'd arranged every song, who'd made them millions, learned he was out from a journalist. Lindsay didn't perform with Fleetwood Mac for 10 years. The band continued, had hits, toured. Something essential was missing. Stevie later said losing Lindsay was one of her biggest regrets. Keeping him might have killed the band faster. Sometimes amputation is the only way to stop the infection. Story 4, a Tom Petty song and the love that never happened. 1981, Tom Petty gives Stevie Nicks the song that launches her solo career. His label is furious. During those recording sessions, something happens that neither of them expected. Stevie was working on Belladonna, her first solo album. The stakes were enormous. If it failed, everyone would say she was nothing without Fleetwood Mac. Producer Jimmy Iovine was helping, but they needed a hit. Tom Petty had just written Stop Draggin' My Heart Around. MCA Records wanted him to keep it. Tom played the song for Stevie. She knew it was perfect. She asked if she could have it. His label said no. Tom ignored them. He gave her the song, sang the duet with her, and his band, the Heartbreakers, played on the track. During the sessions, something shifted between them. The chemistry was obvious to everyone in the studio. Tom was married to Jane Benyo. The marriage was already strained from touring. Stevie was newly single. They spent long hours together, late nights working on vocal harmonies, moments that stretched longer than they needed to. Studio engineers later said Tom would show up hours early when Stevie was scheduled. He'd wait, pretending to work on other things just to be there when she arrived. Jane Benyo knew. She'd call the studio looking for him. The Heartbreakers knew. They'd clear out, give them space, wonder when it would happen. It's 1981. Rock stars are sleeping with everything that moves. Stevie's had affairs with multiple bandmates. Tom's marriage is crumbling. The chemistry is undeniable. And they don't act on it. Stop Draggin' My Heart Around hit number 3 and launched her solo career. Tom and Stevie remained close friends until his death in 2017. Years later, Stevie called Tom one of the great loves of her life, the one that never happened. Friends said he carried a torch for her for years. Story 5, marrying her dead best friend's husband. January 1983. 3 months after her best friend's funeral, Stevie Nicks makes a decision so unhinged that even her cocaine-addicted bandmates are horrified. Robin Anderson had been Stevie's best friend since high school. When Robin was diagnosed with leukemia in 1981, Stevie was there through every chemotherapy session. She held Robin's hand when Robin gave birth to baby Matthew in 1982, knowing Robin wouldn't live to see him grow up. Robin's dying words, "Take care of my family." Robin died in October 1982. Stevie spiraled into grief bordering on psychotic. She'd made a promise. She inserted herself into Kim Anderson's life, helping with the baby, staying at their house, trying to fill the Robin-shaped hole. Kim was drowning in single parenthood. Stevie was drowning in survivor's guilt and cocaine. They convinced themselves they could save each other. January 1983. 3 months after Robin's death, They got married. This wasn't love. It was two broken people trying to resurrect a dead woman. Stevie later admitted she genuinely believed marrying Kim would bring Robin back somehow. That if she stepped into Robin's life, Robin's house, Robin's husband, Robin's role as Matthew's mother, reality would correct itself. She was trying to replace a dead person like swapping out a broken part. The marriage was a disaster from day one. Neither could admit they'd made a horrible mistake because that meant Robin was really gone. They pretended for 3 months, living in a house haunted by a woman who wasn't coming back. Stevie had the marriage annulled in April 1983. Years later, she called it the worst, most painful mistake of her life. Even her bandmates, who'd seen her snort cocaine through rolled-up $100 bills, thought the Kim Anderson marriage was too far. Stevie tried to love someone back from the dead. Robin's family reportedly never forgave her. Kim remarried years later. The friendship Stevie had tried to honor through marriage was destroyed by the attempt. Story 6. The proposal that saved 2 lives. Early 1980s. Joe Walsh proposes to Stevie Nicks. She says no. Years later, she reveals the brutal calculation behind that decision. Stevie and Joe Walsh started dating around 1983. On paper, they were perfect. 2 massive rock stars who understood the chaos. They had one problem. Both were deep into severe addiction. Joe was drinking himself to death and doing cocaine. Stevie was doing even more. Joe proposed. Stevie, even through the fog of cocaine, saw the truth. 2 addicts marrying would be a murder-suicide pact. She said no. Joe was hurt. His previous marriage had ended badly. He thought Stevie was different. Stevie knew if they married, they'd enable each other until one or both died. She held firm. It was the most clear-headed decision she'd made in years, and it came in the middle of her worst addiction. Here's the twisted part. Stevie said no to Joe Walsh, a legitimately good man who loved her because she had enough self-awareness to see the danger. But just months earlier, she'd married Kim Anderson in a grief-fueled delusion that made 0 sense. She could see clearly enough to save Joe's life, but not her own. Sometimes the clearest thinking happens in total chaos. Both got sober separately in the 1990s. Years later, Stevie said, "We were a couple of drunks. If we'd married, we would have enabled each other until one of us died." In a later interview, Joe said, "She saved my life by breaking my heart. If they'd married in 1983, neither would have lived to 1994. Sometimes the deepest love is walking away." Story 7, the abortion that saved Fleetwood Mac. Late 1977, Stevie Nicks discovers she's pregnant at the peak of fame. She has days to decide. Decades later, people still demand she apologize. Rumors had made Fleetwood Mac the biggest band on earth. Stevie was 29, touring constantly. She was free. No husband, no children, no one controlling her destiny. Then she discovered she was pregnant during the Rumors tour. She was contractually obligated to perform every night. Pregnancy meant disappearing for months, maybe years, while the band continued without her. She'd be replaced. In 1977, female rock stars were rare and barely tolerated. A pregnant rock star? Career suicide. The message was clear. Choose motherhood or choose music. Male rock stars had children constantly. Mick Jagger, Eric Clapton, half of Led Zeppelin had kids scattered across continents. It never slowed their careers. Stevie knew if she got pregnant, she'd be written off. The rules were different. The record label actually told her this directly. They said if she kept the baby, they'd replace her in the band. Not suspend the tour, not wait for her. Replace her. She'd spend 9 months pregnant while another woman wore her shawls and sang her songs. And when she came back, if she came back, she'd be yesterday's news. She had an abortion and continued the tour. Decades later, when interviewers fish for regret, she gives them nothing. "If I had children, there would have been no Fleetwood Mac. There would have been no Stevie Nicks." She never had children. 40 years later, interviewers still ask if she regrets it, hoping she'll cry, hoping she'll admit she was wrong. She never gives them what they want, and that drives them crazy. Story 8. The prescription that was worse than cocaine. 1986. Stevie Nicks finally beats cocaine. Her doctor prescribed something to help her stay clean. It's FDA approved, safe, non-addictive. He's lying. By 1986, cocaine had physically destroyed her. The cartilage in her nose was gone. She could barely breathe. She checked into rehab and got clean. For the first time in nearly a decade, she was sober. Her psychiatrist told her she needed medication for anxiety and insomnia. He assured her Klonopin, a benzodiazepine tranquilizer, was safe, non-addictive. She started taking it, trusting medical authority. Within months, she was physically dependent. This wasn't like cocaine. She wasn't getting high, just existing in a fog. She didn't recognize it as addiction. Neither did anyone around her because a doctor prescribed it. The years 1986 to 1993 passed in a chemical haze. Stevie kept performing, kept recording. No one realized she was more addicted than she'd ever been. What doctors don't advertise? Benzodiazepine withdrawal can kill you. Unlike cocaine or heroin, stopping Klonopin suddenly can cause fatal seizures. Her psychiatrist had prescribed one of the most physically addictive drugs in existence and called it safe. In 1993, Stevie checked into a hospital for 47 days to slowly withdraw. When she emerged, she'd lost 8 years. She describes them as worse than the cocaine era because at least on cocaine she felt alive. Her voice today, deeper, rougher, scarred, sells out arenas. The damage became her brand. Turns out destroying yourself can be good for business as long as you survive long enough to monetize it. Story 9, the affair that nearly destroyed the band again. 1977, fresh off her breakup with Lindsay, Stevie starts sleeping with someone else in the band. Someone married. Someone whose wife is George Harrison's sister-in-law. By mid-1977, Fleetwood Mac was touring Behind Rumors. The romantic destruction was already legendary. Stevie and Lindsay had shattered. Christine and John McVie were divorced but playing together. Mick Fleetwood's marriage to Jenny Boyd, George Harrison's sister-in-law, was collapsing. Everyone was wounded, using cocaine, vulnerable. Stevie was raw from the Lindsay breakup. Mick was there, stable, understanding. They gravitated toward each other. Mick and Jenny were separated but not divorced. Jenny still considered herself his wife. When Stevie and Mick's affair started, it created explosive tension. The affair was intense but brief. It overlapped with Stevie's relationship with Don Henley. The timeline was messy, the emotions messier. Jenny Boyd confronted Stevie backstage during a tour stop. The encounter was heated. Jenny reportedly called Stevie a homewrecker. Meanwhile, Lindsay knew what was happening and watched it unfold, probably enjoying Stevie's misery. They still had to perform that night like nothing was wrong. The affair ended. Stevie channeled the chaos into Sarah, one of her most mysterious songs. She's never fully explained what it's about, saying it encompasses multiple relationships, including Mick. The song became a hit. Fleetwood Mac survived their third romantic implosion. The band that created beauty from destruction kept feeding on its own wreckage. Story 10, the voice that nearly disappeared. By 1986, cocaine has destroyed Stevie's nose. Her voice is failing. She gets clean, thinking it'll recover. It doesn't. It gets worse. Stevie's voice was her identity. That distinctive rasp, the emotional vulnerability, the way she could break your heart with a single note. Cocaine literally burns tissue. By the mid-1980s, the damage was affecting her breathing, her pitch, her ability to support notes. She got sober from cocaine in 1986. Her voice began recovering. Then the Klonopin years hit, 1986 to 1993. Tranquilizers dulled everything, including her vocal control. For 15 years, her instrument was degrading. By 1993, when she finally got clean from everything, she tried to sing again. Her voice had fundamentally changed. Deeper, rougher, different range. She panicked. Had she permanently destroyed the one thing that made her special? Here's what saved her. The damaged voice became more powerful than the original. The deepening, the roughness, the wear, it added weight and authenticity that young Stevie's voice lacked. Critics who dismissed her as just a pretty voice suddenly called her singing profound, lived in, authentic. The destruction accidentally created something better. Stevie's been touring for 3 decades since getting sober. Her changed voice carries evidence of survival. Every rough edge, every deepened note tells a story. The drugs nearly destroyed her instrument, but what emerged was something more valuable than technical perfection. Proof that you can be broken and come back stronger. Story 11, facing her ex after 10 years of silence. 1997, MTV asks Stevie to do the one thing she swore she'd never do. Stand on stage with Lindsey Buckingham and sing their breakup songs directly at each other on live television. They haven't spoken in 10 years. Since Lindsey's firing in 1987, the wound had infected. 10 years of silence, resentment, separate careers, they'd successfully avoided each other. Then MTV proposed the dance, a reunion special. Everyone had to agree, including Lindsey, including Stevie. The offer was financially massive, potentially millions, but it meant Stevie and Lindsey in the same room, rehearsing, performing their most raw songs on live television. Both hesitated for weeks. Lindsey agreed first with conditions. Stevie was terrified of the old wounds, the old patterns, the old rage. It took intense negotiation before she said yes. Rehearsals in early 1997 were brutal. They had to learn to be professional, to stand close without detonating. Stevie and Lindsey performing Silver Springs live on MTV. Lindsey had kept this song off rumors because it was too painful. Stevie's revenge song about their breakup. 20 years later, she finally sang it at him on television. You'll never get away from the sound of the woman that loves you. She stared directly into his eyes. He couldn't look away. 20 years of anger, regret, love, and hate compressed into 4 minutes. The camera caught everything. The dance aired in August 1997 to massive ratings. The live album debuted at #1 and sold over 5 million copies. The reunion tour was one of the highest grossing of 1997. More importantly, something shifted. They began to heal. The thing they both dreaded became the thing that set them free. 20 years of unresolved pain had kept them trapped in 1977. By singing those songs together again, by facing the wounds, they finally processed it. They weren't lovers. They weren't even close. They became collaborators who respected what they'd built. Sometimes you have to go back to the place where you broke to finally let it heal. Story 12. The first woman to break the barrier twice. 2019, Stevie Nicks walks on stage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's about to make history and humiliate every critic who ever dismissed her. Fleetwood Mac was inducted in 1998. For Stevie, it was validation after 23 years. But there was always an asterisk. Was she great or just part of a great group? Rock journalists, mostly men, had diminished her. She was a mystical persona, all shawls and twirls. They questioned whether Lindsey was the real talent. Stevie's solo career had been massive. Multi-platinum albums, hit singles, sold-out tours. The Hall moved slowly on recognizing solo artists who were also in bands. She waited, watched male contemporaries get inducted twice while she was passed over year after year. Then 2019's announcement came, Stevie Nicks, solo artist, inducted. She would become the first woman ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. The industry that spent decades calling Stevie just the mystical girl in Fleetwood Mac now had to confront the fact that she'd achieved something no other woman in rock history had. Not Joni Mitchell, not Janis Joplin, not Patti Smith, not Tina Turner. Stevie was first. On March 29, 2019, at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, Stevie gave her acceptance speech at age 70. She looked directly at the young women in the audience and said, "What I am doing is opening up the door for other women." She'd gone from the girl who was told she'd never make it without Lindsey Buckingham to the woman who broke a barrier no one had broken before. The critics who said she'd never make it are all retired now, faded into irrelevance, their opinions forgotten. Stevie's still touring. Turns out she didn't need them either. Stevie Nicks was told she'd never make it without Lindsey. She was told she'd destroy herself with cocaine. She was told she'd regret choosing music over motherhood. She's 76 now, still touring, still writing, the only woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. Turns out the only person who knew what Stevie Nicks needed to survive was Stevie Nicks. If you like this video, you may also like other videos in our channel about beautiful ladies of yesteryear.